Welcome to Beat Diabetes. I'm Dennis Pollock. If you've been following this channel for a while, you know I'm working on another book on beating diabetes. You might think, well, surely you've said all there is to say, but this one I think is going to be a very special book to help people that want to get below that diabetic marker relatively quickly. And I started out calling this, or with a working title of Beat Diabetes in 6 months, or Reverse Diabetes in 6 months. And then later I came up with the idea of steps, making this as simple as possible. So step 1, step 2. So it became 6 months and 10 steps to beat diabetes in 6 months. And now I've thought of a couple more steps, and so we're up to 12 steps. Beat diabetes in 6 months and 12 steps. So that's where we are now. I don't plan to go any higher than those 12 steps, but I thought, yeah, that would probably be good. So I'm going to share a little bit from the book, although the book is probably a year plus from hitting the bookshelves and being on Amazon. I'm working with a publisher called Harvest House Publishers. But this is part of the book, one of those steps, and this is a different kind of a step. It's not a dietary step. So let's get into what I have to say, or what I plan to say in this book. Here we go. I guess you could call this the non-step step. This step has nothing to do with your diet or even your basic lifestyle. It has to do with your state of mind and your motivation. The truth is, it is not enough for you simply to hear these insights from me as you read through this book. At some point, you are probably going to wonder, can I really trust this guy? Who is this Dennis Pollock that he should be offering me insights which he claims will help me reverse my diabetes in 6 months? And there's nothing wrong with a little healthy skepticism. If I was the only person saying these things, you should, in fact, be highly skeptical. The idea that I would be right in the entire medical field and all the doctors and all the nutritionists, all the so-called experts would be wrong, well, that should make a person skeptical. You need to know that there is a small army of doctors, nutritionists, and health advocates in our world that are saying virtually the same things that I will be telling you throughout the book. And there are new converts popping up all the time. And you need to know some of these people. You need to recognize that there are highly intelligent, very sharp men and women who have seen the very same things that you'll be reading in my book and are pushing them strongly and forcefully and relentlessly. I'm not just a lone voice in the wilderness. I'm one of an ever-growing chorus of voices declaring that the notorious food pyramid, which insists that carbs, and more carbs should make up the bulk of our diet, was wrong. Dead wrong, in fact. This extremely low-fat, high-carb diet was the biggest hoax ever foisted on the American public, and sadly, it wasn't long until it was aggressively exported to nearly the whole world. But in the last 20, maybe 30 years, there has been a significant pushback, and its proponents are growing larger and louder. And I'm one of them. And you need to know some of these other generals in the Low Carb Beat Diabetes Army. So here is a list of authors and video creators who speak insightfully and powerfully on this important subject. They're not listed in order of importance, except for the first two. Most of them are on YouTube, so give their videos a watch. And all of those that I list have powerful and insightful books that you should be able to order from Amazon. Now, I want to share 5 quotes from 4 authors, which all by themselves will get you off and running toward the goal of beating, whipping, and thoroughly annihilating diabetes. We'll start with Dr. Richard Bernstein, a medical doctor, but he didn't start out that way. He was an engineer. Dr. Bernstein passed away in 2025 at the age of 90, but he is surely the father of the modern low-carb movement. Some might argue that Dr. Robert Atkins should be named as either father or co-father of low-carb eating, but Dr. Atkins focused mostly on obesity, whereas Dr. Bernstein was focused almost entirely on diabetes. Dr. Bernstein can be found on YouTube. Type his name in the search box. And his classic book is titled Dr. Bernstein's Diabetes Solution. This is the mother of all diabetic books. It's a little deep and not always quite as user-friendly as one might hope. But if you have the patience to work your way through it, you'll learn a great deal, a whole lot. Here's a quote from Dr. Richard Bernstein on the euphoria he experienced when he discovered he could control his blood sugar through low-carb eating and using small amounts of insulin as a type 1 diabetic. He says, "I had taught myself how to make my blood sugar levels whatever I wanted them to be, and was no longer on the roller coaster. How was it that I, an engineer, had figured out how to do what was impossible for medical professionals?" All right, let's talk about Dr. Jason Fong, someone you need to know for sure. He is a kidney specialist. Dr. Jason Fong seems to have inherited the mantle of the world's premier diabetes specialist, at least in my opinion, now that Dr. Bernstein has passed away. Like Dr. Bernstein, Jason Fong promotes a low-sugar, low-starch diet, but he also strongly pushes something he calls intermittent fasting, which means that you eat each day within a certain window of time, such as 6 to 8 hours. You do not snack in between meals, and you never touch food after your window of eating has passed or before it begins. Fong is all over YouTube, and his book, The Diabetes Code, is quickly becoming a classic and a primer for newly diagnosed diabetics. Here's a quote from The Diabetes Code. The 1980 dietary guidelines spawned the infamous food pyramid in all its counterfactual glory. Without any scientific evidence, the formerly fattening carbohydrate was reborn as a healthy whole grain. The foods that formed the base of the pyramid, foods we were told to eat every single day, included breads, pastas, and potatoes. These were the precise foods we had previously avoided in order to stay thin. They're also the precise foods that provoke the greatest rise in blood glucose and insulin. All right, another one of my heroes is actually a duo, a married couple named Doctors Michael and Mary Eids, and they are included in the list primarily because of their amazing book, Protein Power. I do not believe that they have their own YouTube channel, but you can find them on many videos on YouTube giving lectures or being interviewed. Their book, Protein Power, has been a groundbreaker. It came out in 1996, well before most of the modern low-carb teachers knew a thing about low carb. But the thing that makes this book especially powerful is that they understood the negative effects of high insulin, known as hyperinsulinemia, long before most others. This book is actually poorly named. It's far more about the dangers of excess insulin than it is about eating a high-protein diet. The ultimate compliment I give a book is when I mark it well with a red marker, and this book is probably more densely marked than any of the others. It is definitely worth the read. Here's a quote from Protein Power. In the appropriate amount, insulin keeps the metabolic system humming along smoothly with everything in balance. In great excess, it becomes a rogue hormone ranging throughout the body, wreaking metabolic havoc and leaving a trail of chaos and disease in its wake. Another author that I commend highly is Jenny Rule. Like me, Jenny Rule is not a doctor nor a registered nutritionist. She's simply a very smart diabetic who's done an immense amount of research into her own diabetes and the ways and means to control blood sugar. The great Dr. Richard Bernstein wrote an endorsement of one of her books, which says a whole lot. When I ran across Jenny's book, Blood Sugar 101, I did not need convincing about her major emphases, low-carb eating and post-meal glucose testing. I was already practicing both of these things. But she confirmed what I had been learning, and she writes in an engaging fashion, which makes her book easy to digest. Jenny Rule is conspicuously absent from YouTube, however. About all you can find are people like me who review her books. But those books she has written are an important asset in the fight against diabetes, especially her book, Blood Sugar 101. Jenny writes, "Type 2 diabetes is a terrible disease. It causes impotence, blindness, kidney failure, amputation, and heart attack death. But type 2 diabetes is also a wonderful disease because all these dreadful outcomes are optional. No matter how severe your diabetes might be, at diagnosis, it is unique among the serious chronic diseases in that it is the only condition where you, the patient, with only a small amount of help from your doctor and no heroic medical interventions, can achieve normal health." And another quote from Blood Sugar 101, which is just too good for me to leave out. She says, "Even the healthy whole grains and low glycemic foods that dietitians are so enthusiastic about may turn out to raise your blood sugar too high. They may work for people who are not diabetic, which includes most dietitians. But my diabetic body does not distinguish between oatmeal cereal and chocolate cake. Both have too many carbohydrates and both give me unacceptable blood sugars." Other powerful low-carb influencers include researcher Gary Taubes, Dr. Eric Westman, researcher Benjamin Bickman, Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Annette Bosworth, Dr. Becky Gillespie, and of course there are so many others. To be sure, you can find doctors and nutritionists who push the opposite diet, very low fat and high in carbs. Usually they will make them natural carbs, but still high in carbs. But this kind of diet will never give a severe diabetic the kind of victory that a low-carb, high-protein and fat will. And if you don't believe that, eat a meal with a potato, banana, and brown rice, and then test your blood sugar an hour after you finish eating. Then the next day, eat a couple of hamburger patties with a Cobb salad and test your blood sugar an hour after eating. People who eat low-carb meals consistently will not only achieve lower glucose levels, they'll also see lower triglycerides, lower blood pressure, and feel stronger, better, and with more energy than ever before. Additionally, they will normally see a reduction or sometimes an elimination of diabetic symptoms such as neuropathy, sores that will not heal, terrible eyesight, constant UTIs, and more. But you will never hear this if you listen to the wrong crowd. So read books from some of the authors listed and watch their videos. You will find there are so many voices crying out these days that the emperor presiding over the worn-out food pyramid and the low-fat diet has no clothes on. Indeed, he is stark naked. On my Bible channel, we're now offering audio podcasts of the Bible studies Ben and I have in the mornings. An audio podcast means there's no video to watch, and that means you can listen to it while you're doing other things. If you're out and about, you can play it through your car stereo while driving. You can listen through earphones while you walk or exercise at the gym. And if you're at home and going to be in the same room for a while, you can simply put your phone on speaker, or you could buy an inexpensive Bluetooth radio and pair it with your phone, or do the same thing with a Bluetooth speaker. So welcome to our home as you drop in on Ben and me as we study the Bible together.